We're really a third with with Leonard Glass. So, I think for us it's just continuing to go out and get the best players we can get. And we're really excited about all three of those kids because I think all three of them are really highly talented football players and can do a lot of things. So, I think that's kind of always been our niche, and knew it certainly with obviously we certainly lose Michael, and obviously David at some point is going to have to make a decision on his future, and we're just continuing to collect the best players we possibly can. Oh, absolutely. I said two things. Number one, if David comes back for a senior year, you're going to get to be an understudy of really one of the best tailbacks in the country, and if not, then certainly you got an opportunity to come in here and at least have an opportunity to compete with some really good players that we have already in our football program. I think what gets lost sometimes even in that aspect of it is really veteran offensive line, and I think that where we're getting closer to more so than just the talent at the running back position is the growth of that offensive line. And so we're finally in a point where a year from now we'll have guys that have started a lot of football games and guys that have played the same position over the course of a year. So I think from our end we're certainly getting a lot closer. We feel really comfortable with our running back room now, and to add three players like that, I don't know if you can be any more excited as a coach. Yeah, to me that's as equal as exciting today, in terms of continuing to build that. All four of those guys are guys that are maybe as close to ready-made as we've been able to recruit, and I really like all four of them. They have position flexibility within themselves. They're guys that come from programs that obviously have had success and know what it takes to be really successful. So, I think we really helped ourselves and helped the competition for the future of that offensive line. But I've always said about the offensive line position, I think one of the things that is certainly different there is, offensive line and even defensive line a little bit, you're talking about a different animal. You're asking a 17 or 18-year-old to play against 21 or 22-year-old men, and a skill player is a skill player, right? If you're fast, you're fast. If you can run the ball, you can run the ball. But man, when you talk about the development at that position group, I think it's a different animal in a lot of ways, and really hard for a young guy to really push for playing time, especially within their first year. But certainly you love guys that have the physical tools that maybe give themselves a chance to come in and compete. Well, I think veteranness, John's a really special kid. Obviously, knowing John's family and background, and then coming from a quarterback room where there's been a lot of success, and so certainly an offense where they've had tremendous amount of success. I think there's a lot of things that John brings to the table, and just the number one aspect of having a veteran, I think really important. You talk about all three. You're really talking about filling specific needs. Darren Porter, speed, kind of fits the mold of what we've been able to recruit at the wide receiver position. Length, I love that he played defense. Physical football player on top of it. Certainly with Jake, you're talking about a big physical football player. His development from his sophomore year to his junior year, from his junior year to his senior year has been really, really fun to watch. And then Cole, physical football player. And again, all three of those kids coming from programs and high school football coaches that, some of the best coaching in the country is done in those high school programs. So really excited about that.
I know
whether it's this state or whether it's, the 8 hours around, our home, I think that's critical to your success. And, that's something that we've really put, a foundational principle in terms of starting our recruiting process. And I certainly think it's been able to help us and really make some strong moves in those areas. But, now you're starting to see that pay off. You got an offensive line right now that all five of them are Iowans. They take a lot of pride in what they do. And then obviously, to be able to get those three guys out of the state of Iowa, really exciting.
How does that help that you're playing these Iowa guys, showing, hey, when you go into these schools, like, hey, we're using these guys. They're being leaned on during important times, I guess.
I think that's always important to see any young man that's come into your program that's having success, and then you can go in and not only success on the football field, because I think sometimes we all see that,
sure,
but you're talking about leadership off the field. You're talking about guys that are excelling in the classroom, and we've got so many of those guys that it's been really enjoyable to be able to go out and watch that. High school coaches have a lot of respect for at least what we're trying to accomplish. Good question. I think as healthy as we've been right now, you know, Randy, and so obviously that time off for us that we took was really, really important. You know, if we would have anybody limited, probably, you know, we would know more of that by, you know, certainly the end of last week, or end of this week, but I really feel like we'll be 100% going in this bowl game.
How would you?
The state championship game this past weekend in the state of California, and, you know, had over 100 yards receiving, had over 100 yards rushing, and then also had an interception down on the goal line. And so you talk about a football player that brings a lot to the table. You know, I think as multiple as anybody we've recruited in a long time here. So, you know, I think he fits one of those molds of guys that are dynamic with the ball in their hand, but also a guy that's elite that can go over and cover, and that's a hard skill set to find today. And you know, really excited he chose to come here.
Are you recruiting?
I mean, and you guys know that. You know, you've seen we're always moving our roster around, even within our own walls. And find the best players you can find, and then find what a great fit to make your football team better. And I love guys that play multiple positions, and we know this in high school. You know, a lot of times the best players getting their ball in their hand somehow, some way, whether it's a quarterback or running back. And so I love guys that have the ability to do a lot of different things. And, you know, I think this class certainly represents that in a lot of ways, especially with the skill players. That's where you're appreciative of having a veteran football team. You know, I think from the preparation and our guys taking care of themselves at home, you know, I think the leadership of our football team did a really good job, because we've had 2 really good practices the last 2 days. You know, for myself and really our coaching staff, I mean, it's been you know, that's the one thing that with this new recruiting model a little bit, it's certainly, you know, it's a hectic time kind of up until signing day. But, you know, even in this class, you appreciate, you know, having great relationships, really trusting the young men that, you know, a lot of these guys have been committed for a long time. And so that part certainly helped us, you know, kind of maybe put a finishing touch on the recruiting class as well, with an eye on this bowl game. No, I think, and Jared, you know me well enough in terms of trying to better your roster. You know, I think at this point you're finding ways, can you improve your roster in any way, shape, and form? And, you know, I think you can collectively sit back now, see where you're at, let the dust settle a little bit, and say, you know what, is there an area or 2 that we could go and really put a finishing touch on next year's roster? And, you know, that's, for me, that's always been the way we've looked at it. And again, not maybe so much positionally as well as the whole picture, and how can we have the best 2019 roster we possibly can have. Yeah, that's painful. You know, I mean, it's not real comfortable, but again, I think you lean on, you know, relationships, and you lean on, you know, that ability to develop those relationships over time, and you hope it's good enough. And sometimes it is, and sometimes maybe it's not. But, you know, I've never been a guy that's worried about the guys we didn't get, more so worried about the guys we do get. And so, you know, I think we're all really grateful that Ray chose to come here, because he's certainly been a huge part of the culture shift in our program. But yeah, those are some sleepless nights. I love it, you know, and I really do, you know, especially with the fact that they don't let the head coaches out in the spring, and, you know, it gives you as the head football coach, you know, the opportunity to maybe go watch a basketball game, or go watch a wrestling match, or, you know, certainly have the ability to get around, especially in our own state, where, you know, it's hard to do that sometimes during, you know, that fall period, because you know, this year we only had two weeks to be able to really do that, where now you can take your time and really kind of put a great emphasis, not only in 2019, but we'll really go to work here once we get back from this bowl game on what's that 2020 roster look like. How can we make that the best roster possible as well? We got a lot of those guys. You know, we sent you know, we spent a lot of information in, and it's not even, man, are you sending it in because a guy may make a decision or not? I like to send that information in so our guys get some great feedback. And, you know, even guys like last year, you know, with Peeve and some of those guys that we sent the information in, just to find out, you know, what do I got to improve on? What are some areas that, you know, I go into my senior year, or some guys their junior year, and how can I become the best we possibly can be? So, you know, that's something, once the bowl game gets done, we can really hammer through. And John, again, that is whatever, you know, to me. I think it's what I love about this class is, you know, 17 and 19 have really been committed for a long time. Guys that we've got great relationships with, each and every one of them, their families, their high school football program, they fit our culture. I think we really understand, you know, now being here going into our 4th year, what works at Iowa State, what fits what we're trying to build here and what we're trying to become. And so I think I feel maybe as good about this class as I have many of our classes, just because I think we really know who these young men are, how they fit into our program, and what we're trying to get accomplished with them. Good. You know, I gave our guys off last week with finals. We took the weekend off, which, you know, a lot of our guys were able to get home a little bit, which I thought was really, really important. And then we came back Monday night, we had a meeting, and then kind of slow practice yesterday, just to get back on the field, kind of get our bearings right, and then today really start to kind of chip away at a game plan. So, you know, we're in the early stages. I'd certainly love to have the majority of that done by the time we leave to go to San Antonio. But, you know, again, I really appreciate our kids because their attention to detail so far has been outstanding, and I appreciate that. So I think in this year it's a little bit different because we did have that game, you know, where we got a lot of really good prep time, you know, and getting, you know, really kind of staying on course. So I think there was some great value in that extra week for us. And, you know, I think just being really smart about, you know, what we do. I think it's that fine line of how much is development and how much now is really putting your football team going to win the game. But you're right. I think, you know, being in these situations and going through this, you know, I think you just kind of keep plugging away. But every year is a little bit different. This year certainly was a little bit with that game.
Thanks.
Did you see that? Did you see Twitter this past week when he was dunking the basketball? So, you know, like I like that. You know, I like guys that can dunk it because I couldn't. So, you know, he's really athletic. You know, you watch Jairell play, and he's passionate about football. You see him making great plays on defense, and he's playing safety and, you know, running downhill and filling an alley. You see him running the football. And I think on top of all that, he's got elite leadership ability. He's a guy that when he walks into the room, you're instantly drawn to him. He's got a great smile, great family. And he's a guy when his football team needed it the most, he was able to put them on their back and have great success. So, you know, I think he's a really special young man on top of being a really good football player. You know, to me, it's even above, you know, the football aspect of it. I really, how do you treat your coach? You know, what are the people in the school that have no recollection of football? You know, what do they say about you? Those are things that, you know, I love to get around those communities and kind of find out how a young man's viewed in his community. And, you know, especially when you're the big fish in the small pond, you know, I think a lot of eyes are on you, and you know, you go to that community, and he's as well respected as any young man that, you know, I've been around a long time, so it says a lot about him.